everybody, and welcome to episode 82 of Own the Road with AutoTrader, where we make car stuff simple for Canadians. My name is Jodi, and I'm the editor-in-chief of AutoTrader.
And my name is Dan Alika, and I am AutoTrader's road test editor. Fun fact, 82 is also Jodi's internal age.
It's true. Yeah, my physical age and my internal age.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't. The
my back
age
thinks I'm 82.
Yeah, for sure. Early bedtime, your hobbies, everything. It's kind of you're our resident senior.
I love old lady hobbies.
Yeah, it's true.
They're peaceful. They're artistic. I don't have to talk to other people. I can do it by myself.
Yeah, that's fair. That's why she doesn't consider this podcast a hobby. This is work.
This is work.
Because she has to talk to other people, otherwise known as me.
But I love talking to you.
And Seb.
That's true.
Yeah.
We should have an episode where it's all three of us.
Seb.
How crazy would that be?
It'd be fun.
And if we want to make it even crazier, we'll invite Michael, baby Michael,
Mikey?
our intern, our AutoTrader intern.
Guys, 82 episodes. He wasn't even born when we started this show. It's crazy to think about. Now here he is,
Here he is. I can't wait for you guys to meet him. He's a cool guy.
Okay. This episode was kind of born of the idea of, road trips and it's summertime and whatever. I think that's just one of those things we think about a lot in North America, right? That the whole idea of like the summer road trip is like such a intrinsic part of life here. And it's that idea of like, hey, the road trip season's kicking off. It's June. So it's like the things you should and shouldn't do in your car, because you see people all the time out on the road, even when they're on their way to work or whatever. But, there's always people you see with their car loaded up with gear or a trailer on the back. And the big one is like the passenger has their feet up on the dash.
Oh, it's so gross.
So not only is it gross, but it's so dangerous.
It's very unsafe.
So we decided just to do an episode about, all the stuff that you shouldn't do inside a vehicle, even though you probably are doing at least some of them.
I think everybody is doing at least some of these, and we're not gonna talk about like texting and driving. Obviously, you guys know you shouldn't be texting and driving, but you shouldn't be doing that. But we're gonna try to go over things that, like, maybe you do, but you don't think is dangerous, but like newsflash, it is.
But we do need to talk about texting and driving or being on the phone. So Canada has pretty good distracted driving laws. I remember in Ontario specifically, it was like 2011, and we had some new ones that were pretty strict come into effect. So I was an intern at the time at the Toronto Sun. I was covering sports and crime, and I went out and bought like a Bluetooth headset because my editors would call and say, we need you to go here, whatever. And I was like, I don't want to get a ticket, so I went and got a headset. So, but the point is that we have had distracted driving laws here for, 14 years. The number of doughheads I still see out on the road that are like talking on their phone, like driving, and they're holding it up
on speakerphone.
Like, I'm sorry, guys, but like, I don't know why you think speakerphone is hands-free. Like, if it's in your hand, it's not hands-free.
I saw one person balancing it on their shoulder.
Yeah, I've seen some funny ones. I saw a guy who was clearly talking to it like in a chest pocket, and I was like, well, whatever.
I mean, that works.
I saw a guy, this isn't a joke, I saw a guy with a sweatband who had it like, and I'm like, at that point, man, like, first, if I see someone I know that there are in-car issues all the time with technology, but like, you and I test drive stuff all the time, so I know what does and doesn't have Bluetooth or Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And the number of people I see on their phones in cars that I'm like, I know if you just took the time to hook that up, you wouldn't be doing this.
And it's not even hard to hook up, though. That's why I'm so confused when I see that, because it's so easy to do.
But, aside from the creative ones that you're like, well, it's still dumb, but it's like tip of the hat because, you've come up with something new. But the holding the phone beside your mouth while driving is not hands-free. I don't know why I have to say this in the year 2025, but that is literally the opposite of hands-free.
Yeah, I know. So the loophole I see now is that a lot of people have their phone on a mount, which is fine because but they have videos playing the whole. They're not touching it.
Guy like TikToking his way.
So the laws, you know, it's you can't dial and you can't text.
Yeah.
But there's nothing about you can't watch a video on your phone while driving.
So it's kind of funny, like how I, you know, in 2011 when I was still living in Ontario and we had these provincial laws come in. And then I moved to Alberta. I got my first, you know, paid job at a newspaper, and I moved to Grand Prairie, Alberta. And Alberta passed even more stringent distracted driving laws to the point where it wasn't just about phone use. It was about eating and drinking. The only thing you were allowed to consume behind the wheel was water.
That seems very harsh to me.
Hey, the problem is they had to amend. This was that was in 2011. And that was during an oil industry boom. And I can't remember what the fines were, but it was like hundreds of dollars. Like it was super expensive. And they quickly had to amend the laws to increase the fines because you had these oil workers. I'm not joking. You had these oil workers that were like, oh, whatever, it's $800. Like, I don't care.
They were swimming in cash.
So they were like, they increased the fines and they increased the demerits because, people were just like, I don't care. I can afford it. And which is crazy to me that it's like, dude, a Bluetooth headset is like $30 and you would rather talk on your phone. And I mean, I know it looks stupid to have a Bluetooth. It's funny how that's changed. I know it's a little bit different, but it's like, you know, 10, 15 years ago, if you saw somebody with a Bluetooth thing in their ear, you're like, nerd. And now it's like, oh, AirPods, those are so cool.
Yeah, I know. But especially if you saw someone talking to themselves on that Bluetooth headset, you'd be like, even worse.
Yeah.
Now there's people talking to themselves all the time.
I know. But anyways, it's like, in Alberta, like the day or the day after the legislation passed and it went into effect, one of the guys that I worked with at the paper had gone through the drive-thru at Tim Hortons. I'm not joking. He left the drive-thru. He turned out of the Tim Hortons parking lot. He took a bite of a donut and a cop pulled him over and issued him a warning, but said, you cannot eat behind the wheel. Like,
did he confiscate the donuts?
No, I don't think so. But he was like,
what a place to post up, though, right outside a drive-thru where you know people are going to have.
But then again, he didn't get a ticket. I'm not going to name names, but he didn't get a ticket. And if it was a legitimate education opportunity that cop said, hey, I'm going to post up here and do this, I think it's actually a great spot for it because it's a surefire way to get a bunch of people and quickly spread the word that like you can't be eating behind the wheel. But anyways, that was like, those are very strict rules. And people still skirt them. And all of us see people all the time still talking on their phones, still doing dumb stuff. But one of the ones, and this is how it came up, was the idea of people wearing over-ear headphones behind the wheel. That's illegal.
It's just so unsafe. And like for me personally, I don't even like walking around with over-ear headphones. I can't imagine how out of the loop I would feel if I was driving in them.
I just don't. That idea that if and I know now modern ones, just like AirPods and stuff, they have that like, you know, spatial sound and they can like, you know, alert you. It's actually kind of cool for like running and stuff where if you're at like an intersection, it lets in more atmospheric sound so that you can like keep an ear out for vehicles and other people and stuff like that. But like if you're wearing over-ear headphones in the car and an emergency vehicle is approaching you from behind, there's no way you're going to hear that siren going if you have earmuffs on. Like,
but it's also like, what is the purpose of this?
Again, just buy.
Like your car has a radio.
Yeah.
It has Android Auto. It has CarPlay. Like what are you listening into in there? That's so important.
This is actually a funny story. And again, I'm not going to name names, but someone that we both know, their partner has like a weird thing where they hate like listening to music in the car. I don't get it, but they just like don't like listening to music or podcasts or whatever. But then when they road trip, their partner often falls asleep in the passenger seat. So this person subtly slips an AirPod into their left ear so that their partner cannot see it and listens to like mute. Because when you're driving, to me, it's up to the driver.
Yeah.
That's been my outlook on this ever since.
That's just common sense.
Yeah. It's like if you're driving, you get to control what is being listened to, because especially if it's a road trip or something, you want something that's like both engaging and distracting at the same time, right? Where it's like not too engaging, but then also not too,
boring.
You're going to be bored and whatever. So yeah, this person slips an AirPod in to listen to music without judgment behind the wheel. And I think it's such a random thing to get mad about.
I mean, that's really funny. I can see that is a very specific situation that I doubt a lot of other people have to deal with.
No, just the headphones, because you were like, what could you be listening to? And I thought, oh, maybe it's like the person with them. But I see it, commuters alone all the time.
Yeah.
And I understand maybe that's the Bluetooth headset that like work gave you is like this over the ear one. But it's like, dude, just buy a different one. Or like your car is new enough and it probably has Bluetooth. Like just use the in-car Bluetooth.
But it's also weird because I see it a lot of times where people have their earbuds in or headphones and like there's nobody else in the car.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you're just hook your phone up.
So weird.
Yeah.
Other than being unsafe, it's just weird.
Yeah. Another one is like makeup. You see, and sometimes the police will like, put out social media posts or whatever about like, women that have been pulled over for doing their makeup and stuff. But it's like, I understand you want to look good for work or whatever, and that's fair, right? It's like everybody likes to look good when you're going out into public. But if you don't have time to do your makeup at home, is doing it behind the wheel, like, is that really the right idea, to be staring at yourself in the mirror instead of what's going on around you? Like,
I just don't think people are paying enough attention to what's in their windshield.
Just insane to me.
And it freaks me right out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yesterday I was driving and this person behind me was clearly having a voice call or a video call on their phone because they kept looking up and then looking down for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And we were in stop and go traffic. So the whole time I was like pooping bricks because I thought for sure I was going to get rear-ended today.
Pooping bricks is a funny... This
is the censored version.
Chris doesn't have to beep that
I know,
out. So
exactly.
you just said pooping bricks.
I'm trying to make his life a little bit easier.
And everyone's going to hear this term.
But I was so scared that I was going to get rear-ended.
Sorry, I do want to throw this to one of my dad's favorite movies of all time. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Okay.
The little girl comes downstairs and she sees, Uncle Clark is looking out the window after the whole pool scene. And she's like, Uncle Clark. And he's like, what are you doing up? And she's saying she's worried about Santa Claus. And he goes, whatever, you worried? And she goes, bricks. And he goes, oh, you shouldn't talk like that. And she goes, sorry, rocks. And it's so dumb, but it's so funny to me.
That's so silly.
So anyways, that's what it just reminded me of. Pooping bricks.
Making notes to bleep those out as we speak. But I just thought, like, how stupid is it to do that?
Yeah, that's unbelievably dumb.
You're making everyone around you super nervous.
Yeah. It's also like, I mean, there was a guy a few years ago, I believe it was in Michigan, who had, this episode is turning into like funny stories, but it was during COVID, I believe, and he like called in to like the, Zoom court appearance. And the judge was like, Mr. So-and-so, are you there? And he's like, yeah, just give me a minute. And then the judge is like, are you driving right now? And he's like, yeah, just backed into this parking spot. And the judge is like, isn't this court appearance to do with you driving without a license?
Oh my God.
This guy was driving without a license, got caught.
Red-handed.
And then got caught again. Yeah. So anyways, video calls behind the wheel. It's like, I don't know. I guess maybe if your boss was like, this is a mandatory meeting, but it's like, to me, I wouldn't want to be like, that's just a weird vibe to be like, yeah, I'm just in the car on this video call.
Yeah, especially if your camera needs to be on. Yeah. Why would you do that?
Yeah, weird.
Super weird.
Yeah. This one is going to make us sound like old people, but we both agree. Not just the 82-year-old in the room. Listening to your music too loud.
Okay, here's my thing about this. If your license plate frame is just rattling, turn down your damn bass.
Did you notice Chris, just like our producer Chris, like I could see him like have one of those moments. Does my license plate frame rattle when I'm driving? He likes to bump the tunes. I know.
It's too much.
I know this about Chris. He's heading back home after a tough day dealing with us on the podcast, and he just needs to.
But instead of turning his music down, he's just going to remove his license plate frame.
Smart.
That way the problem doesn't exist.
But yeah, no, that's a good point. If something on your vehicle is rattling, it's probably excessive. But yeah, I mean, again, this to me, it goes back to emergency vehicles, right? It's not just about, other vehicles. I mean, I try to pay attention. Think about like, to me, whatever you call it, like sensory awareness, it's not isolated to just one sense, right? It's like, there's so much connection between like what you see and what you hear. So if you can't hear anything, it's harder to kind of identify where things are, like what's happening and where and when and whatever when you're behind the wheel. But then the big one is emergency vehicles, where if there is a ambulance coming up behind you or a fire truck or whatever, and this one, it's something that I like feel so strongly about. And it drives me absolutely nuts when I see people not pull over for emergency vehicles. And the first question I ask is like, what if it was your family member that was in the back of that ambulance, or it was your house on fire? You would hope that people were parting like the Red Sea. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you still see people that either the vehicle's coming up behind them and they keep driving, or driving in the opposite lanes of traffic. Don't forget, guys, unless it's a divided highway or a divided roadway, you have to pull over. If you're heading northbound and the ambulance is heading south, that doesn't mean you just get to keep cruising, because you don't know if that driveway that you're passing is where that emergency vehicle is going, or if somebody else makes a boneheaded move and that ambulance then needs to use that oncoming lane to get around them. So it's like, pull over, take that 10 seconds out of your day to let that emergency vehicle with its lights and sirens do what it needs to do. But again, listening to really loud music, two things. Why would you do that? Because it's unsafe. Why would you listen to loud music when you could be listening to Own the Road with AutoTrader?
What if they just like hearing your booming voice really, really loud?
Yeah, I will do that for you.
We can do a whisper version, the ASMR version.
There you go.
Of Own the Road with AutoTrader.
Imagine how bad I would be at that.
I don't think you're capable of whispering.
I don't think so. Becky's not either. We were talking about that today before I left to come get you and come up to the studio. She like went outside and she came back in and I was like, oh, what were you doing? She's like, oh, I was on a phone call. And I was like, why did you go outside? And she's like, well, I didn't want to she's like, I know I talk so loud. When she's like in person, she's like not so bad. When she gets on a phone call, I don't know what happens. It's like, wow, the most excited person on a phone ever.
That's
and
so
the irony is she hates phone calls, but you'd never know it by the tone of her voice. So anyways, she would be bad at the ASMR episode, and so would I. You'd be okay.
I think I can do it.
Seb could do it.
Seb could do it, yeah.
Michael could do it too.
I don't know.
Yeah, he could do it.
We'll test this out when we see them later this week.
With his little baby voice.
Poor Michael. He's not even like the youngest of our interns, and we still roast him for being so
25
young.
25 or something.
No, he's like 22.
Oh, my bad.
And I'm angry not because I'm jealous, because I'm 82.
Okay, guys, to hit the dog owners here, I know it's cute to have your dog on your lap or in the passenger's lap or just laying on the back seat. You really should have your dog secured in like a seat harness. And the reality is, in the event of a collision, Bow Wow could be going bye-bye. Like, that could be a real bad situation.
I mean, besides that, like, even if you don't get into a car crash, I've seen people with their dogs in their lap fully blocking the side mirror. So it's like, how are you supposed to see anything?
One time, I'm pretty sure, so Becky used to have this, like, really adorable Jack Russell named Jewel. And She jumped when she was a puppy. She jumped out of the window.
My dog did that too when I was little.
Yeah.
It was so scary.
Yeah.
We had to reel him back up because the car was moving.
Oh, so Jewel wasn't on a leash.
Oh,
she
my
was just like
God.
in the car, and there was like another dog or something, and she just boom.
See ya.
And so that is another reason why you should have your dogs on harness. But it's like they sell harnesses where, because I don't like, this does seem like a, and I've seen it through the States too, but like an Alberta thing where it's like people have their like pickup trucks and they'll cruise around with their dogs just in the bed of the truck. And I'm like,
that seems like a bad decision.
saw one when we were on Vancouver Island. This was like a few weeks ago. And there was a Ford Super Duty, and the driver had one of those like platforms for snowmobiles on the back. So it like sits on top of the bed. And it gives you extra room, and that way you can park two sleds side by side. So he was driving around with this thing with obviously no sleds. This was the spring. With his dog just on the back of the truck.
Unsecured?
Yeah.
Weird.
But even inside the vehicle, like, yes, inside is better than outside, of course. But, you really should. They sell like these kind of harnesses where your dog gets strapped in on the back seat. So they still have room to move around. It's not like they're like strapped in the seatbelt and can't do anything. It just like means that if there's a collision, they're not going to come flying forward and, end up getting hurt or worse, or somehow like end up in your footwell as the driver.
Oh my God.
Like that to me is like a nightmare. So,
I mean, that brings us to our next point that like when things fall into like the passenger side footwell, people bending over to pick it up with the wheel in their hand and they're going crazy. Yeah. That is so unsafe. Like if something falls in the passenger side footwell, please just leave it there. Yeah. There's no reason that you need that thing right now. No. It is so dangerous to be doing that.
And then that, unsecured stuff, putting stuff on the dash, or like a water bottle that's like not really like let's say I don't know. I usually use these like, big tall water bottles when I'm doing like my evaluation and stuff like that. And sometimes the bottle holder in the door, like this thing's too big for it. But if you put it like, I don't know, on the passenger seat, and if it rolls, it could roll into the driver's footwell. And like the idea of that getting stuck behind your pedals is a very real possibility. And so for me, it's like if it won't fit in a cup holder, I would much rather put it on the passenger side floor. Or if I have like my camera bag or something, somewhere that I can like secure it so that it's, secure and standing vertically and there's no risk of it going for a ride. And but that to me is, you see it quite more often than you would like to think of people that drop stuff. And then they're like, all of a sudden it's like a driverless car. Nope. Larry just, dropped his phone.
Come on, Larry. Yeah. You don't need your phone right now anyway.
Exactly.
That's wild to me.
Yeah.
So dangerous.
Yeah.
And I feel like everybody has done this.
Yeah.
Without thinking. I feel like because a lot of people are like, oh, I know it's unsafe, but I'm not unsafe.
Yeah.
Like I'm paying attention, so I'll be fine. I just don't think it works that way.
This is not a funny story, but another one of those, like I won't name the person, but Jodi and I know someone who was talking one day about like phone use in the vehicle and was like, no, but I've gotten really good at it. And I'm like, distracted driving isn't a skill. It's not something that you get good at. Like that's an impossibility. You can't say I have the talent to not look at the wheel. But I can sense an impending collision and slam on the brakes.
That gets me is because like you don't know what other people are doing unless you're watching them. So how can you be prepared for if something were to happen?
So when I heard that, I was like, that's literally an impossibility. And this person was like, no, I've gotten much better at it. I'm like, that's not. You just haven't had a situation where a vehicle has slammed on their brakes in front of you. A dog has run out in front of your vehicle. Like, it's not a skill. It's sheer luck that you haven't had any issues. And quite frankly, it's illegal and you're lucky that you haven't been stopped for it.
Yeah. Because I know people who have like checked their phone while waiting at a red light, stopped, and they'll still get ticketed for that too. So like, I'm just warning you guys, like, don't even do that.
I've seen cops on motorcycles.
Yeah.
I've seen cops on the sidewalk. Now, of course, this is like downtown, where they will literally just like light turns red and they will walk from behind down the line and just take a look and see if anybody, and if they are, pull over.
Yep.
And they'll give them a ticket.
Yep.
And these are the sort of things I may be like a little bit more lenient about, speeding and stuff. Like, look, I mean, it's still illegal, but I'm not like a hardliner with, if somebody's doing, 56 in a 50 zone, I'm not like, oh, you better give that person a ticket. But like, distracted driving is such a dangerous occurrence that happens way too often. And it is one of those things where I'm like, I do wish people would get pulled over and learn that lesson the easy way.
Instead of killing somebody, which is the hard way.
That's exactly the point. Is like the easy way is to get a ticket, pay it, you have those demerits, and just be like, well, my bad, versus getting into a collision, hurting other people, killing other people, hurting yourself, killing yourself, all for what? For that FaceTime call with Larry? Not worth it.
No,
Trust
Larry's
me.
checking his LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Larry's checking LinkedIn because he wants to know what his business associates are up to.
Yes.
Put down the phone, Larry.
Yeah. And then, the last one that we have on here is smoking weed in the car. We talked about not bringing this up because it's like, well, it's illegal, like drinking and driving, and it's true. But I mean, it's still like very common. And that is one of those things where I know some people say, oh, I can focus better when I'm stoned and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still, it impairs your motor skills.
Mm-hmm. Your reaction
time is way down. And once again, if it's illegal, then just don't do it. Like,
yeah, I feel like it's illegal for a reason. And I know a lot of people who are like fully like high, they call themselves like high functioning stoners. So they could be just blazing all day long.
Was that a intentional pun?
Blazing
all day long.
Yeah, just blazing all day long.
Okay.
Yeah, and just like, and they can get in a car and be totally fine. But I kind of think that like maybe you just haven't had an incident yet.
Again, yeah.
Right?
Like I said with the distracted driving, but I don't know. Just like getting in a vehicle with somebody who's been drinking, like if I were in a car and somebody was, getting high, I'd be like, yo, like put it out or pull over. Like I'm not doing this. It's like, I don't know, my life is worth more than that. How would that person feel if I went, no, I'm going to have a couple beers while we're cruising around. I function better after a couple beers. Like, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Someone I know was like, it was like a nice night. They're like, oh, I'm just going to have a smoke and go for a bike ride. Like, pretty innocent, right?
Bicycle,
not a motorcycle, just a bicycle, right? As soon as he got the bike out, he flipped over. He just fell over and he was like, nope, I'm going back home.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
and that could have, if he got into a car, that could have been a much more serious incident, right?
It's illegal to bicycle drunk. So I don't know. I wonder if it's the same with weed. That's a good question, actually.
We should ask. Yeah. That is a good question.
Yeah, but I know it's like you can get like, it's whatever. Obviously, it's not like impaired operation of a motor vehicle, but it is something that you can be punished for, drinking and cycling.
I mean, my thing is like, if you have like a bottle of cough medicine and you're like, shouldn't be operating heavy machinery, right? Like if even that is enough to put you over the edge, you probably shouldn't be smoking joints in the car, right?
Yeah. So those are our list of, that's our list of like, the things that you shouldn't be doing. I'm sure there are others, and I'm sure somebody could email us with something that they've seen on the road. Yeah,
I mean, if you guys have seen anything that's really, really dangerous that we haven't mentioned, you can email us at expert@trader.ca. And we actually have an Ask an Expert question today. Okay. So before that, here's a message from your friends at AutoTrader. Having trouble finding your perfect car at the perfect price? The answer is AutoTrader. Car prices are dropping across Canada, and AutoTrader has hundreds of thousands of new and used cars to choose from. Get a great deal on your perfect car by visiting AutoTrader today. Okay, today's Ask an Expert comes from Charles from Woodstock, New Brunswick.
Hello, Charles.
Hello, experts. My question is about oil changes. I have a 2002 Mustang GT, and ever since I owned it in 2013, once I get it out of storage, I would change the oil in the car with Mobil 1 5W20 full synthetic oil. I only put on about 1,000 to 2,000 miles a year, and since it's my second vehicle, the vehicle has the original engine, and during the winter months, I store the vehicle inside an unheated but covered building. With everything going up with tariffs and inflation, do I really have to change my oil and filter every year? Or could I get away with changing it every other year because I don't put that many miles on it? I love listening to your podcast and hearing about everything automotive.
Well, thanks. Thanks, Charles. I think, look, I mean, it's a tough one because I don't want to give you a piece of advice that ends up, leading to trouble. And you say, well, those experts told me. But no, I mean, look, man, my thing is, okay, oil breaks down not just through use, like, through mileage, but over time, right? It starts to break down. The chemical compounds start to break down and whatever. So my thing is, you're not putting much mileage on there. I would just check the oil. And if the viscosity is still good, if you feel like it's okay, then yeah, I wouldn't be bothering to change it every year. So like what you're going to do is check the color of the oil. And especially, I mean, I think you're doing these oil changes yourself. So you know what to look for, but absolutely, I would say that it's perfectly fine to go, more than a year. I personally like to do the oil change when I put the vehicle away. So if I were in your situation where I was only putting, a couple thousand kilometers on it a year, what I would maybe do is, again, depending on how the use is, monitor it. But like every second year is fine. But if you put on more miles one year because you decide to road trip it or whatever, then just be mindful of it. But absolutely, I don't think you need to be doing it every single year. It seems like unless you like doing it, and then whatever, just keep, if it's one of those things, if it's become like that ritualistic, like.
I mean, but he's trying to save some money, right? So it feels like.
So then don't, I wouldn't bother. But again, just keep an eye on it because that to me matters more, is not just the interval of the time or the mileage, but just like looking at the condition of the oil. So you're checking color, you're checking viscosity. And then also if you notice anything in the oil, any contamination, then it's something that you should investigate further. But otherwise, if the car is running fine, then no, don't waste your time or money on these oil changes.
Thank you so much, Charles, for your question. If any of you would like to ask Dan or I a question, you can email us at expert@trader.ca. But that wraps up this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Drive safe. Don't do any of the stuff we talked about today. Drive safe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.